Can N-scale be as detailed as HO? Let's take a look. Hi, I'm Dan Cortopassi, and today I'm reviewing an N-scale SD40T-2 locomotive from ScaleTrains. This model is part of the ScaleTrains rivet counter line. I've previously reviewed the HO scale versions of these units, but this is my first example in N-scale. This model is available in two versions. The factory direct price for the DCC ready version is $149.99. The factory direct price for the version with LoCSound, DCC, and sound is $254.99. I got my sound equipped model for the same price from Lombard Hobbies. We'll start the model at 100 possible points. The engine comes in a sturdy cardboard box with foam lining. Inside is an operator's manual with explanations of how the DCC function keys are set up, lubrication instructions, and other information. A plastic cradle protects the model. Foam inserts protect the handrails. This is a good box that should protect the model for storage and transport. Tunnel motors were built to draw cooler air from a lower height to combat overheating in Southern Pacific snow sheds on Donner Pass. Rio Grande also bought some of these locomotives. The SD40T-2 was essentially an SD40-2 with a different radiator section. Neither the SP nor the Rio Grande had conventional SD40-2s. I found some photos online of SP8494 taken between 1993 and 2001, and the model looks to be a close match for the real locomotive in that time period. Key spotting features are the removed oscillating and emergency lights, the addition of a beacon, speed lettering paint, and the addition of ditch lights. 8494 was one of the units to have the Power by the Mile sticker below the cab windows, and this is reproduced on the model. This graphic doesn't appear in the photos that I found from 1993, but is there in one from 1995. Overall, the model is a good match for photos taken from 1993 to 2000. Assuming the photo dates are accurate, sometime between 2000 and the summer of 2001, the locomotive lost its beacon. The number boards were also changed to white with black numerals. ScaleTrains got a lot of things right, especially details that would be hard to correct, like the used-to-be L-shaped engineer's front window. By the 1990s, this had been replaced with two separate panes of glass with a narrow post between. 8494 has low deck-mounted ditch lights, which are correct for this unit. Overall, ScaleTrains did a great job capturing the appearance of this unit as it was in the mid to late 1990s. The paint on this model is opaque and thin enough not to obscure detail. The markings are crisp. Some of the stencils are truly microscopic, but they still look good under magnification. The detail is really amazing, especially for N-scale. On the left side, the front truck has a speed recorder cable and brake chain. The trucks also have separately applied brake lines. One of these tends to pop out of the side frame on my unit. It's fairly easy to press it back in place, but I'll address this later in the rip track segment. I really like the SP-style jacking pads. The handrails are made of a flexible plastic, and most of the stanchions are straight up and down. One of the biggest standout features of this model is the see-through intake area at the rear. The grills are photo-etched. The gear tower for the rear truck blocks part of the view, but overall the effect is still really good. In front, the model has separately applied windshield wipers and grab irons. All of the details are very delicate and in proportion. The model has double stanchions in the middle, just like the real thing, and functional ditch lights. The pilot has hoses, an uncoupling lever, and a plow. The cab windows have armrests, sunshades, and wind deflectors. It's hard to see, but the cab has a full interior. In back, the detail is similar to the front, minus the plow. The model has more separately applied grab irons, and the locations for the oscillating and emergency lights are plated over. On top, the model has more neat detail. The AC unit, SP-style bell, antenna stand, and freestanding conduit all look correct. That conduit is actually a separate piece of very fine wire. Unfortunately, the beacon is just for show and doesn't actually light up. Personally, I'd prefer an operating beacon, but ScaleTrains does state this on their website. The dynamic brake fans have photo-etched grills and the correct number of blades. The radiator grills are also photo-etched. Underneath, the engine has enough detail to look good when the model is on the track, including some plumbing under the sill. It even has sander lines. All of the axles are powered and all of the wheels pick up current. The fuel tank has holes in the bottom for the speaker. I have the ScaleTrains model of this unit in HO as well, and the N-scale unit looks like a shrunken version of it with most of the same details. The model is equipped with ScaleTrains Microtrains compatible knuckle couplers. Looking for a match on the horizontal center line, the front coupler is high, so I'm taking 5 points. The rear coupler is at the correct height. All the wheels are in gauge according to the NMRA standards gauge. There is no significant body wobble. The model weighs 3.2 ounces. Drawbar pull topped out at 0.3 ounces on my force gauge. For comparison, the ScaleTrains Conrail C39-8 that I reviewed some time ago peaked at 0.5 ounces. I suspect the lighter weight and pulling power are related to the open space in the rear. I'm running the engine on DCC and I haven't changed any of the factory default settings. Like most DCC models, this engine is set to address 3 out of the box. The number boards on the model turn on when the F8 key is pressed, which also turns on the sound. F0 operates the headlight, which comes on in the direction of travel. The front headlight is on when the engine is set to move forward, and the rear headlight comes on when the engine is set in reverse. F6 turns on the ditch lights, which are also directional. F14 turns off the number boards. F2 sounds the horn. The length of the toot depends on how long the button is pressed. F1 rings the bell. F4 turns on the dynamic brake sound. The locomotive has the Loc Sound drive hold feature set up on the F9 key. This allows the throttle to control the prime mover sound without changing the locomotive's speed. This can be used to simulate a heavy train starting out with the engine revving, or a locomotive that is coasting. F10 is a brake. The momentum settings will determine how quickly the engine stops and starts. Overall, the sound volume is plenty loud, especially for N-scale. I usually end up turning all my locomotives down. With the sound off, the model is very quiet. The couplers are supposed to be Microtrains compatible, so let's try them out with a Microtrains car. Coupling up works perfectly. The engine coupled easily on the first try at low speed. There's no need to slam the models together to get them to couple. Magnetic uncoupling has fallen out of fashion with a lot of modelers, but I want to try it anyway. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. The ScaleTrains couplers don't pull to the side like they're supposed to over the magnet. For comparison, here's a Microtrains car. You can see the coupler moving as it hits the magnet. I don't think this is worth a deduction, but it's something to think about if you're planning to use magnetic uncoupling. I tested the model in the Siren Creek layout and it ran well. The track on this layout is built to very tight NMRA tolerances. If the locomotive had any issues with wheel gauge, this layout would find them in a hurry. The engine runs fine on the wharf spur, which is about a 10-inch radius. The body-mounted couplers on the engine have a lot of overhang on curves. However, I was able to pull a 40-foot boxcar on the wharf spur without issues. Unfortunately, a 50-foot boxcar derailed on the main line, which is about a 12.5-inch radius in this area. The lateral forces from the coupler overhang pulled the car off the rails. Long engines like this would probably work best on layouts with broader curves. To disassemble the model, first I need to remove the coupler boxes from both ends. Now I can gently pull the shell off the chassis. The decoder is mounted on top. Smaller light boards hold all of the model's tiny LEDs. The ditch light LEDs are mounted on the chassis as well. Tiny fiber optic strands carry the light to the ditch lights on the Pilot. I didn't need to do anything special to fix the front coupler height. When I put the coupler back on, it was at the correct height. I suspect that it was installed at a slight angle, making it tip upward. A small dab of canopy glue will fix the detached brake cylinder. This will dry clear and be all but invisible. So for those of you that don't know, I've been in N-scale for a really long time, since I was a kid. And my first trains were N-scale, and I started getting serious about it, I'll say probably in the late 70s, when I was, still pretty young. And, back then, a lot of the locomotives were just really not very good. They were really junky, they weren't that detailed. They didn't run very well. And so, to see a model like this from ScaleTrains really is kind of a little bit mind-blowing for me, with all those memories of all of that stuff that I had before. To see something like this where the detail is almost as good as their HO scale version. I mean, it's got pretty much everything the larger model has on it within the realm of what's physically possible, in N scale, so or at least practical in N scale. So, I really think that N scale is really matured and come into its own, and I think it's really cool that we've come to that point, because it's a good size, and you can do a lot with N scale in a given space. So I think having really good models available is really good, because I think maybe if people were more inclined to want the smaller size, they'd be more inclined to go with a good model, because I always I'm of the mindset that quality over quantity. Having a couple of really good models is much better than having a whole fleet of junky ones, because they just run so much better, and just the satisfaction you'll get out of operating them is so much higher. So I think ScaleTrains really hit the mark with this one, and I hope they do more of more like this in the future. Let's see what we've got. The model had one high coupler, so I took 5 points in the standards and operation category. That leaves us with 95 out of 100 possible points, which earns an A. This is a nice model, and it deserves a green signal. I think ScaleTrains did a really good job on this model. If you're looking for a tunnel motor for your N-scale layout, then I think you might like it. If you like this video, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching.